Happy New Year, happy 2021. We are fortunate to have a great collection of leading PMS software companies with us today, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing from each of them. Today's topic is integration strategies. So what do we mean by that? In the hotel business ecosystem that we all, most of us probably all live and work in, there's a truth that we all understand, and that is that the PMS is the hub or the central nervous system of your hotel's operations. It is the holder of rooms reservations, which is the product of every hotel. If you want to run a modern hotel, first and foremost, you must have software that allows you to manage rooms and reservations. However, if you want to run a competitive and successful modern hotel, you'll want to have more than just that. Whether it be revenue management or sales and catering or CRM or any number of new products that you see in the market today, every hotel is looking to add functions and features that will make them more competitive. For many years, PMS companies simply said to their customers, no problem, we have everything that you need here. But the truth is that even 10 or 15 years ago, hotel brands like Marriott or whoever were finding new third-party software innovations and demanded that their PMS companies integrate with those third-party softwares. The PMS companies weren't necessarily happy about that. After all, they wanted to have all of a hotel or hotel brand software budget. But at the end of the day, they did it. Third-party integration, therefore, is not a new concept. Integration is not a new thing. It's not something that suddenly people are doing. But things have changed when it comes to how PMS companies approach third-party integration. It seems like PMS company attitudes are evolving. So what is this all about? That's what we're here to learn about today. First, what I want to do is I want to go around the table and let our panelists introduce themselves. I'm going to start with Nicki. Go ahead, introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Nicki Dehler. I'm the VP of product for StayNTouch. I joined StayNTouch right from the early days, around about 8 years ago. And I have been working on the product design and functionality ever since. Prior to that, I was with Oracle, back then Micros, for 12 years, where I was responsible to assist with launching the Opera PMS and CRS products in Europe, Africa, Middle East, as well as Asia Pacific.
Thank you very much. Richard, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, so I'm Richard Valtr. I'm the founder of Mews Systems, or Mews as we like to kind of have in our logo. And we're a PMS. I started the company 8 years ago, and it was while I was building a hotel in Prague. So this kind of been because I'm fundamentally a disgruntled PMS user who thought things could be done a little bit differently, a little bit more open, and in a slightly better way, and completely cloud-based from the get-go.
Well, thank you, Richard. Richard, you're breaking up just a little bit, but there might be a little bit of connection issues, but that was good. Ingo, can you please introduce yourself, please? You might be on mute still, Ingo. There you go.
So first, I want to thank you for inviting me to the session, and thank you all for joining today. I'm Ingo Dignas, co-founder and CEO of Protel. Protel is part of the industry for more than 25 years now. Many of you may know Protel for the PMS or PMSs. We are offering both premise-based and cloud-based PMS. There was a question in the chat, what PMS stands for. It stands for Property Management System. But what some may not know is that we are also offering a platform, an integration platform service. The idea behind the platform is not only creating a next generation technical way of connecting other vendors, but we also use it as a standalone product. For example, offering it to other PMS companies who are not so experienced, and they can then use our integrations for their own purposes. Or, for example, in multi-PMS environments. So when a hotel chain, for example, has a cloud-based and a premise-based PMS, or multiple PMSs mixed, then you can use an integration platform.
Excellent. Thank you, Ingo. Laura, can you go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, first of all, it's great to be on this panel together with so many former Micros and Fidelio colleagues in front of this impressive audience. I'd say despite the worst imaginable year that we just had, I believe we are here together on this event because we need to help the industry with a collaborative approach to advance its technology and therefore really influence the way people travel around the world. So my role at Oracle Hospitality is to lead strategy and product management. I've done this role now for almost 3 years, but I've been with the company for more than 25. And one fun fact about me that people may not know is that I started as a developer in a cubicle. As a matter of fact, I was the very first software engineer for the Opera version 0.0. And with that, I was fortunate enough to travel to hotels that at that time were adopting the product for the first time. And I got to interact with the customers, and I fell in love with the industry. So I've been with it since ever since. And then I had various roles from in product development and services, and even some sales. And all this experience has prepared me for my current role, where I lead a tremendously talented team that's responsible for product portfolio that services 40,000 and more hotels, casinos, and cruises around the world, servicing from global brands like Marriott to independent hotels in remote locations. The recent one I've heard about, which I really love, is one on the Arctic Circle in the northern part of Finland, where they celebrate Christmas all year long. I don't know if you know about it, but I love that. So anyway, I am looking forward to our discussion today as we share ideas and define the most important questions that we all should be asking as we head into the new year.
Thank you very much, Laura. Appreciate that. And then lastly, can we, well, not lastly, of course, but lastly from the PMS companies, Uli, can you introduce yourself, please?
Sure, thanks, Paul. Hi, everybody. I'm Uli from Apaleo in Munich. I'm one of the founders and CEO of the company, which we have started a couple of years back. I spent pretty much all of my life in hotel technology. So I was with Fidelio over 10 years, even before Laura joined, most probably, here in Munich. And then I spent over 10 years helping to build up ideas as a worldwide company. So I've got quite some background in hospitality technology. And obviously with Apaleo, we've started something completely new, which is very much different from all of the previous products we have done in the past.
Awesome, thank you, Uli. And then finally, we have someone who's not from a PMS company, but is worked at a PMS company, but works at for now a third party he's started. This is Schaap. If you could introduce yourself.
Yes, thanks, Paul. First of all, I want to thank all the PMS vendors for joining. I think this is this was a kind of a bold idea that I had sometime in Q3 last year to see if I can get a bunch of PMS vendors on one call to talk about integration innovation. It worked out well, so I'm really grateful that you guys made the time and are here. Myself, I spent most of my life in hospitality software. Prior to that, I worked in hotels for Hilton and Van der Valk in Holland. But the last, 6 years, I worked in hotel software. The first 18 of that, I was working for Micros Fidelio in charge of the Opera development and product deployment globally. And after that, in 2012, I left to start StayNTouch, a PMS company that I founded at that time and eventually sold to Shiji. Then I took a little bit of time off, and now I started a new company called ROOMDEX. ROOMDEX is contrary to PMS, a little smaller, hopefully a little easier to deploy and get out there. It's a company that focuses on three things: a room upgrade, early check-in, and late checkout, which are high margin components of the guest stay. They're high margin revenue components, and therefore they, especially right now, should be very attractive to hotels in order to get some additional revenue, as well as please their customers with better rooms and so on. So that's me.
Thanks, Jas. Appreciate it. All right, so before we get into the actual questions, what I want to do is I want to remind our audience that we will be taking questions from the audience. There is a Q&A feature in Zoom. Please go ahead and use that to log your questions. We'll try to get to as many as we can. There is also a chat, which is a little more challenging to keep track of the questions, but we will do our best to make sure everybody's involved in the conversation. So anyway, so we're going to start off with kind of a broad question to set the stage. Basically, I'm interested in hearing each of your approaches to integration with third parties and how it may or may not have evolved over the years, and which direction are you going as a company? Most importantly, I'm kind of interested in what is the motivation for the decisions that you've made vis-a-vis the way you're approaching integrating with third parties. So we're going to go around the table. I'm going to start off with Richard. He's going to lead us off on this question.
Great, thanks so much, Paul. So I think for us, I think we were really at the forefront. I think we were the first company back in 2014 to open up our APIs and to have this idea that it was very much at the core of what we were doing was basically to say, it should be completely standard in this industry to have open APIs. And I think that's why I'm so happy that I think everyone around this table has basically kind of taken to that and now kind of see the virtue of that. I think when you were, for example, referencing the old way that PMS has thought about the world, it was, it's difficult to connect, especially when you're kind of on premise. But I think the nature of cloud computing and the nature of the world there is that, innovation can really come from anywhere. And it can come from a lot of different sources. And we as PMSs, as the kind of the guardians of the operations of a hotel, we need to be able to actually kind of make sure that we're making it easier for the hotelier at every single step of the way to actually kind of, embrace different types of business models, embrace different ways of working, and make sure that the operations is really kind of reflecting that kind of real-time nature that I think most customers actually kind of expect. So in terms of our strategy, I think, for us, basically the idea of talking about open APIs and that kind of thing, it feels a little bit kind of old hat. It feels to us, it's like we actually internally don't want to talk about it because we're like, that was something that we really kind of talked about 5 years ago. And I think then we kind of went through a process of talking about why you should have webhooks for everything, why everything should be really kind of real time as possible, why you could actually kind of have those kinds of integrations. I think for us going forward, it's really trying to kind of focus on the developers and trying to make sure that it's as simple as possible for somebody to actually kind of connect with us, but at the same time that we're still able to kind of push forward with the innovations that we think are really, really going to be core to this industry, and to be able to actually kind of do that. So not just have innovation from without in that kind of, I guess, API first mindset, but more of a product mindset that we're able to actually kind of innovate ourselves and work with our partners to actually kind of, deliver completely different ways of working and to deliver completely different ways of thinking about how this industry can actually operate, thinking about how do we get away from nights as the main kind of charge unit in the same way that we thought about, how do we get away from having to run a night audit or liquidated processes like that, basically. And I think it's just about progress, innovation, and how we can actually kind of move forward and bring as many people into that process as possible, basically, from within the industry or even without.
Cool. Thank you very much. That sounds very interesting. And I definitely want to get back to you on some of the things that you mentioned there. But I want to hear from Laura from Oracle right now. Laura, like, again, the question here is really looking at how integration strategy has maybe evolved from the past, where it's going in the future, and kind of the decisions behind that.
Yeah, a lot of good questions there, Paul. So I will start by saying that the integration strategy is by far the most important enabler of innovation, increasing revenue and profitability, and certainly improving the guest experience. And I think it's not just about the PMS, it has to be across all the core system. It's almost like a three-legged stool, if you want, in one of your bars. And if you have a customer sitting on it and a leg is missing, then we don't want that to happen. We need to think about it that way, because this is how we apply our integration strategy across all our products, not just the PMS. So because we are talking about the integration strategy, I want to give you a clear view at the world beyond legacy. And we do that like in three, I'm going to give you three lenses, almost like, you know, the new fancy smartphones that you have today. So first and foremost, the importance of being what we call seriously open. And what we mean by that is that everything that you see in our UI is available through APIs for integrations, for consumption by partners and customers, and being able to extend essentially the platform that we offer. And that comes with a series of tool sets for an end-to-end self-service engagement model, where our partners and customers are essentially able to discover the APIs, write their integrations, even provision and monitor their integrations by themselves, all without having to call somebody at Oracle, unless you want to. Second is what I like to call the gold mine. And what I mean by that is the APIs of the platform and the value that they provide. And maybe to give you some perspective here, because I believe that there are a lot of partners maybe on this call that are familiar with our legacy systems and probably know that our legacy integration protocols have around 400 API capabilities. In comparison, our Opera Cloud solution has more than 3,000. And all these are available for integrations for our partners and customers. And the third aspect here is the engagement model that we have established with the partners. And we formed a community model where actually we give access to our participant partners and customers to lots of experts, a community of experts at Oracle Hospitality, including some senior members of the product management team and development team who are eager to listen to all the feedback that we're getting through this forum, and just to essentially advance our solutions. All this is available now. In the past 3 months since we released the new integration platform, we onboarded about 100 partners and customers, and we are getting ready for our second wave. So it's going well so far.
Thank you, Laura. So Laura, you had started off in saying this integration strategy is very important for hotels' profitability and competitiveness. So you're now at this stage where it sounds like with the community and the tool sets that you're encouraging integration right now. Is that something like, is that a mindset that's changed, or is it just because of the cloud platform? What was driving that?
Definitely a mindset change with the acquisition from Oracle, right? I think at Micros, I think we used to be more of a closed system mentality. Totally changed that when we joined Oracle. What we needed was the technology that was supposed to enable all this, and we're fortunate enough at Oracle now that we can take advantage of the technology that Oracle has to offer. So we essentially implemented the integration cloud services tools that Oracle offers. They're all now embedded into our platform. And this is what enables the self-service model. And it's a phenomenal set of tools that we have in our repertoire now.
Thank you. That's interesting. Nicole, can you go ahead and talk about StayNTouch? And I'm familiar with, have done some work with StayNTouch, so I'm familiar. It's been very pro integration for a long time. Can you speak to how it's evolving, or where it started, or where it's going?
Sure, and a lot of good points from Laura and Richard already there, especially on the open APIs. We basically split our integration into two main groups, I like to say. We have vendors, obviously, who connect to our APIs, and I get to this in a little more detail, and vendors where we need to really offer more tailored messaging using methods like the old OTA and HTMG. And unfortunately, I think still to this day, this hasn't gone away. And it's still necessary, the more functionality you add to the PMS, or you offer with your PMS, the more there's also a need to create a solid integration with some of the bigger players out there. And that was certainly something that we wanted to first and foremost cover and have it as a solid base of the system. We then went ahead and also added our open APIs, of course, to be able to really connect to all of the vendors out there. So for them, it's really quite straightforward. It's important that it's really simple and fast to connect. So I still I believe a vendor looking, for example, for a simple room status update or something doesn't really need to foster through thousands of APIs or needing to be sending a multitude of pull requests. They really need to be able to find what they need fast and efficient, and really also doesn't really want to needing to receive extensive support from the PMS vendor either. And so the key is really that the basic information is readily available at all times. The other piece that I find as important part of the strategy is that we remove the friction away from the customer. There's no need, while we need to obviously have sometimes the customer involved to bring the three parties or the bar stool together, as Laura said. I think when it comes to really the integration, the PMS vendor and the external vendor need to make it a smooth process. And that is really a big part of also anyone's integration strategy, or should be. And so, yeah, for me, transparency, flexibility, simple and fast are the key words that we really try to follow in our strategy.
Cool, thank you. Uli, can you give us the apaleo perspective on this topic?
Sure. Before we started apaleo, actually, we had quite some experience doing APIs and open APIs on top of cloud PMSs. And so when we thought about the next generation, actually, we decided to do it completely different. We were never building or developing apaleo as a PMS and then putting APIs on top of the PMS. What we did from the beginning and still are doing today, we are doing only an API platform which is entirely open. When you look at apaleo, it's always API first. So whatever we develop in terms of functionality, features, database, whatever, it's always going into the API platform. And from that very moment, it's very available for any third party that wants to connect to that platform and build on top of it. And so this applies actually to any third-party app out there, any software developer, any hotel group that wants to do their own developments. They actually can use this API platform to do the same thing. So our strategy is not to build any modules or components ourselves. We would never go ahead and build whatever housekeeping app or a BI app or a CRM, but we leave that out to the world. So our strategy is that any hotel group can put their own tech stack together based upon this API platform, select the apps they want, and then easily connect it and make it work in a live environment. And part of that is not only that this platform is entirely open and 100% available, it's also that we would never charge for anything like interfaces, licenses, integration, certification. We would even never charge professional services to bring these systems up and the apps connected. Any hotelier that wants to use apaleo should be totally free to do it in a self-service mode, and it can happen actually within minutes today. So it's a totally different approach of building a PMS first and then put the APIs on top of the PMS, or do it the other way around. And we have been following this approach from the very first moment, and really it shows that it's very well working. So we'll come back to this a little bit later when we talk about taking onboarding live and do some other things with it.
Excellent. Good. I have some, based on what you're saying, I have a few questions for you that I want to get to after we go around the table. You bring up some excellent points. Ingo, can you tell us your perspective on this topic?
Yes, sure. So I think like Laura, we also have lots of customers, right? So we have, because of our history, we have so many customers and thousands of integrations. And normally it was also in the past, it was always about the customer, right? About the hotel. They wanted to connect to telephone systems, to POS systems, all hundreds of different products. And I think as the technology evolved, and let's say from 2009 on, cloud came into play, then integrations became much easier, right? So open APIs normally not only, they're also good for the PMS vendors, because we can give the work to others, right? Like Uli described. So why should we invent a product ourselves if others can do this and we can just integrate? But also the customers have changed, right? In the past, like Paul described in the intro, customers normally wanted to buy the products all from us in the beginning, right? And also from Oracle. Laura, you remember probably. It was not only PMS, and when you compared PMSs, you compared conference and banqueting, sales and marketing solutions, and all had to be built into the PMS, and that's what the customers wanted, right? So in the beginning of in the industry, that was normal. And when more and more external vendors came up when the cloud started in around 2009, then we started immediately looking into more modern protocols. How can we use modern APIs for connecting to others? And later, when this went even further, then we thought it's a good idea. Why shouldn't we create a platform on top of this and let on-premise based PMSs talk to that platform, and also the cloud product talk to the platform? And then we have to write all the integrations only once, and we can also put them on a technical new level, because you can imagine, in our industry, the protocols used between, let's say, a PBX or a POS, they are sometimes 30 years old, right? So when we have things like GDPR, which we have to take into account, so just opening up everything to the outside world, we have to also think about security, right? It's very important that we make it easy for our customers. The hotels should not care about this, but we have to take care about this, that not any integration which is connected can read guest data or modify guest data across a planet, right, where it's not allowed to be distributed. What I especially like about, let's say, the new age of integration is also that we have a great collaboration between the vendors. So I find that the collaboration got much better during the last years. Also projects between the PMS vendors. So we have, for example, a project where Radisson Hotels, they run 2 different PMSs. Unfortunately not ours, they run Oracle and a new one. And we are delivering the integration platform and all the integrations for them. So you see there's a great collaboration in the industry now. So we are looking forward to amazing times.
So this is interesting. So many of you are talking, or some of you have been talking really that you're not only in the PMS business, you're in the integration platform business. Yes. And that seems to be sort of like the opportunity. I mean, you all are software companies. You all have developers. You all built your basic property management system. You're adding some features. In the past, maybe you said, oh, okay, well, maybe we're going to do an RMS, or maybe we're going to build some other thing to add on to that and grab that market. Now it's like, well, what we're going to do is we're going to compete, and we're going to have a better integration platform than the next guy. Is that kind of what I'm hearing here? Is it now a war of integration platforms?
It's not only about competition, right? It's also because it makes the life easier for the customers, right? The customers have a smooth and easy integration. If I remember the COVID year now, there were hundreds of kiosk solutions which we had to integrate. if you have to do this in a manual way, or let's say in an old-fashioned way, connecting on site and so on, it's very difficult. If you can just enable an integration in the cloud that allows also the PMS vendors and also the external vendors to have hundreds of go lives per week, right? That's also very important for efficiency.
Well, so there was a question. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Sorry, I just wanted to actually kind of come to that as well, because I think the main thing that's happening that we see is basically, you know, technology has become a competitive advantage for a lot of hotel groups or a lot of hoteliers. And I think they're increasingly kind of seeing that. So I think it's good that they then put the pressure on us basically to say, well, look, I am working with this really super interesting startup. They seem to have some really, really great technology. Can you enable this? You know, and it's then great for us to basically kind of work with those really interesting startups. I think, you know, we have a great track record of helping some of what I think are some of the most incredible and innovative, you know, new startups basically enter the industry in the first place. And I think that as we as kind of, you know, competitors or part of this kind of ecosystem, that's where the arms race kind of, you know, comes in, you know, like what type of, you know, total product can you actually kind of enable for the hotelier? And I think that's why we're so kind of focused on this, and why we're so focused on that kind of developer community around us, because it really is about the strength of the entire ecosystem. And the more types of, you know, cool things that a hotelier can do, that then creates a competitive advantage for them to offer to their customers. And I think that's really the kind of the central point. So I think we're all working in unison to actually kind of make sure that technology is a driver of significant value to the end customer. And I think that's where we look at it. And I think that's also, you know, what's driving some of our newest innovations and, you know, things that we're trying to do, like space-time and things like that, to really kind of enable completely different types of, you know, models that a hotelier can actually kind of use, and to make sure that, you know, all of the integrated parties that we have with us, we're taking them along on that ride as well. And just making sure that, you know, somebody who was basically, you know, supplying only to hotels now has an entire universe of other types of industries, other types of parties that they can now actually provide their services to. So I think for all of this is about trying to deliver value at every single step of the way, but ultimately it's basically kind of making sure that the hotel partner or whoever is actually kind of buying from us can actually then reload those kind of technological value to the end customer, and they can really get some kind of really, really amazing competitive advantage through that.
Well, there was a question earlier on that said, UPMS vendors all claim that your systems are open and integrated with third parties. What is your strategy introducing functionality that competes or even copies your third-party partners? Now, this sounds like someone who is from a third party. What I'm hearing is actually, what I'm hearing between the lines is saying it's probably not as profitable to go out and try to copy all the third parties because there's so many out there right now. What's probably more profitable is to have these integration platforms, because going out and trying to constantly do a feature race with every software producer out there is probably not profitable. How you all, is that the case?
Paul, I would say this is not about profitability. I think it's about what's the right thing for the customer. What do we need to do to move this industry forward? And I think as my colleagues have said it, we all recognize that innovation doesn't only come from us. It comes from the entire ecosystem. And so I think it's really important that now our duty is really to make integrations easy and simple and cheap, and really give the customer choice to implement very easily, very fast, the solution that they like. And if they don't like one, also like to sort of succeed or fail fast and then pivot and select another solution that is available in our marketplace. So I think it's all about the customer.
And I would go a step further. I would say when we look at the industry, the real successful hotel accounts and groups and hotels will be the tech-driven hotels in the future. And that applies because they all need to become contactless in some way. They need to become more efficient, more automated, run all procedures they can in an automated way. And so what we see actually happening is we have more and more clients that want to realize their own hotel concepts by developing own specific features on top of a platform. So this is kind of what we think should everybody allow, that anybody could go ahead, a third party existing, a new app on the market, but even any hotelier who wants to build their own BI, revenue, whatever tool on top of a platform, they could use 100% of this functionality and feature at no cost whatsoever to do that. And I think that will be really the key to it, that the platform is as open as possible to allow exactly that. So our idea behind it is that anybody actually could register for an API developer account on the platform, and within a few moments could start developing against that platform using all of the functionality and features they want to use without even talking to the people that run the platform, without paying 1 cent of interface licenses or whatever in order to get certified to have that connectivity.
Thank you. So I'm reading a lot of the questions as I'm listening to you all speaking, and what I want to do is I want to move into this. There seems to be some questions around the process and the cost for integrating, whether to your to integration platform or what have you. So what I want to do is I want to actually skip over to our non-PMS guest, Jas. Jas, you wrote an article last year called "Free PMS API Integration is the Key to Hotel Innovation." Can you tell me what your thoughts are here? And obviously the key word here is free. In the questions here, we're talking, there's like some cost and process, some documentation questions. I think we've come to the agreement that integration is good. And PMS companies realize that it's for the best of the hotel. Laura's saying, we're trying to make things, the hotels more successful, and this is clearly the way to do this. So we all agree on that. Now, how do we get there? What's the cost? What's the process? And should it be free?
It should be almost free, I think. I think because free is obviously, people have to make money too. So free is a big word, but definitely that article that I wrote last year got a lot of attention on the internet. Was one of our most read articles, probably because of the word free PMS integration in it. But what I meant with that is sort of a little bit actually what Laura and Uli mentioned in their conversations earlier, is that it should be easy to access those APIs. There should be no charge towards the vendor to do that. There should be some, check, is this a real vendor? Is the vendor serious about it? Because the one thing I assume you don't want is that everybody just starts building and then never finishes it on your API stack. But in general, I think it should be very quick for somebody to start working on it. It should be free to build the application. And ideally, I think it should be very close to free for the hotel, or free for the hotel in order to make that work. And then maybe there should be some sort of a small revenue sharing between the third-party vendor, let's just say in this case Roomdex, and the PMS vendor to enable this. Because of course, also for a PMS vendor, if they have all these beautiful APIs available, and some of the newer APIs, Mews, StayNTouch, and apaleo started with that out of the get-go, but Protel and Oracle, so Ingo and Laura, they had to deal with a legacy of 20 years of many thousands of installs. So you can't just have that also available. It takes time to build that. But from what I see now, both of those companies with Protel with Protel.io and Laura Oracle with Oracle Hospitality Integration Platform are basically getting to the same stage now, which allows me as a vendor, a third-party vendor, to connect for free, to build the application, and then there is some sort of a handshake between the two vendors, which determines how it's being paid for, which was also one of the questions in the questions and answers. So for me, what I mean with free, it should be simple, fast, and really should be, a little bit of money is okay, but it shouldn't be like it used to be in the past, even when I was at Oracle, where it was thousands of dollars just to try something simple. that just is not, that's not good for innovation. And then lastly, I mean, the technology out there today is, and Ingo mentioned that earlier, is so much different than it was 10, 15 years ago. It is just simply by the technology that we all are using today, it is just a lot easier to connect things. It still requires skills on, which API do I use, which do I not use, and what do I build, but it's definitely a lot easier than it used to be. So we've gone with ROOMDEX now. We've launched our application in September. We've taken a bunch of hotels live, currently on StayNTouch. And I think the same is going to happen with Oracle when we get to them, Protel and Mews and apaleo. We're working on apaleo right now in Oracle. And it's what we see is, yeah, it's just basically, it's almost handshaking. You get each other login stuff, and we start working, developing. And this used to be in the past very painful process, not necessarily from a development point of view, but more from a commercial point of view to get to that stage alone. And what I could see with StayNTouch now, it's simply, now that we're connected, it's the next hotel is basically one phone call currently away. And I believe in the future, like apaleo does, that can all be done through user interface online. So there's no interaction required, there's no waiting required anymore. And that's really what I mean with 3. It should be seamless. And I think from what I hear today, all 5 of you are working towards in a very good manner.
Laura, he mentioned some business model proposals here as it relates to third parties, the PMS company. What are your thoughts on what he's saying here?
Before you start, Laura, I just want to shoot out the poll that we have, which is similar to that question. And then Laura can communicate while people fill in the poll.
That's good. So based on what we hear from our customers, I think the key here is that we remove all the barriers, all the major barriers for our customers to be able to discover and adopt new innovative solutions. It needs to happen, I think Uli mentioned, it needs to happen with the peace of mind that their core systems will remain secure and performant. So this is why at Oracle Hospitality, with the introduction of the integration platform, now part of the base product of Opera Cloud, we actually eliminated all the integration fees on the customer side for all integrations that are coming through the integration platform, not the legacy ones, which are also still available in cloud. So what it really means is that for customers, this is unlimited number of integrations as part of the base product for all the flavors of Opera Cloud, for Foundation, for Standard, and for Premium. And on the partner side, we have a very transparent pricing model. It's based on consumption, based on the API calls volume that is needed for the messaging. And in order to just get access to our set of tools, to the APIs, to the developer portal, to a sandbox, all that actually comes at a virtually free. I'd like to say it's $10. And I know $10 works because I asked the boyfriend of my daughter the other day, who's doing a startup, and I asked him if $10 is fair, and he showed me his pocket, and I said, I have it, and it's fair. So I think we're good there. So I want to mention one other interesting fact here that may be good for anyone listening that has a startup. I would encourage you to look into the startup program that Oracle has to offer with the Oracle Cloud infrastructure, not just from a commercial perspective, but imagine having your system sitting right next to ours in the same data center. It could have some really nice advantages for our customers, from a performance latency perspective. So I would encourage you to look into that too.
Thank you. Excellent. I'd like to go to Nicole. Again, going back to what Jas was talking about in terms of free and pricing and process, what's their perspective from StayNTouch?
Yes, well, the reason why we brought simplicity into our integration strategy is really that we also believe that the customer shouldn't be paying for the integration. And that's sort of been our opinion from the get-go. We've always applied this, I agree that it makes maybe sense for the vendor to contribute towards the cost for the PMS provider, a small token amount, especially, or if they have needs that are a little bit out of the ordinary. But the PMS, of course, needs to continue to maintain the development costs and system resources. So I think while the important thing is that it doesn't turn into a potential revenue stream for anyone. Integration should be free, or just a token fee to cover some base cost. And then the idea really is to enrich your system with other systems, right? So while, as we said before in the past, everyone wanted to build everything and be the best of all in everything, I think now everyone realizes that you can enhance your PMS a lot more by adding some powerful vendors, be it startup, be it more established companies. It doesn't matter, but basically let the hotel mix and match the systems of their choice and make it very easy for them to do so.
Ingo, is that how it works with Protel?
Yes, I think so. For the vendors, there should be no prohibitive fee avoiding, let's say, connecting to the platform. So I think it's okay if the price is transparent, or if there's a small onboarding fee, because also many startups, they don't come from hospitality industry, and it's also some teaching we do for them. And when they test and certify an integration, we also have to make sure that the data is used in a proper way, right? So I think it's okay if PMS companies or platform companies take a small fee for the vendors, but not in an amount which is prohibitive, for sure. When we talk about the hotels, we have to be really a little bit honest, right? There has to be a sustainable business model behind it. And if a vendor says it's there for free, then we need to be honest, then you cover the cost in some other points, right? So maybe let the PMS cost some euros per month more per room, or you choose another, let's say, level of your product, which is more expensive when you include free integration. So I think we should be honest and open and transparent to our customers. And therefore, it can be free. And I think our industry should make it free by having negotiations between vendor and platform owner. So we have this, for example, with more than 30 vendors, where the vendor is then paying back a revenue share to us. So the integration is for free for the customer, but this really needs to be negotiated between vendor and platform owner. Because you can imagine, if you run a platform and you have to do support, if anything goes wrong, nobody can do this for free. So we should really be honest and open about this. But I think we can solve it if we negotiate between the vendors. Then I think we can make it free for the customer. It's no problem. But we need, for sure, a business model for running a platform.
Sure. We just ran a poll, and the question was, to win business, many hotel software vendors offer 1 or 2 month free trials. As a hotelier, would you be more open to those free trials if your PMS vendor would waive their fees during such a trial? So 60% said yes, probably that's fairly expected. I think that, the free trial concept that these third parties are introducing in order to get market share, they're trying to get themselves out there. If you just try us, then you'll know that you'll like us. And particularly right now with COVID and the market pressures, it's really about trying to make sure that hoteliers who are very cautious about their budgets can still do some innovation. So how is and this is a question I'm going to ask for all of you. How is your PMS considering free trials from the PMS interface side? Uli, let's start with you.
Yeah, we are doing this anyway. So anybody who wants to kind of trial the PMS, they can actually go to our website, register, have a test account within a few moments available. And not only that, we believe that a test should not only include the PMS functionality, but should also include the apps they want to test with the platform. So we would allow also the users, hoteliers or third parties, developers or apps to actually connect any app that is on that platform and try it out with it together. So put their own tech stack together in a demo system without any cost and trial it. And if they find that one, whatever, PI app is not the one they were looking for, they can switch this app and deactivate it and try out the next app based upon the platform. So it should be as easy as this from a technical perspective. So it's not only about offering those integrations via Open API, it's also make the onboarding available immediately and instantly without any cost. So I believe we should go much further than just looking at what was possible in the past and what the APIs allow, but make it as easy as, for example, using your iPhone as a platform. Because what you do there is essentially you connect any app you want, you see the price up front, and you can trial it out. And if it doesn't work for you, you try out the next app. And that's the way how we look at real platform business.
So Laura, free trials, does Oracle have a specific policy in terms of third parties trying to offer free trials and the integration process that's involved in that?
Yeah, so first of all, it makes me so happy to see that we are in sync with the polling results. So I mentioned before, right, for Opera Cloud, so I'm talking about our cloud product now through the integration platform. So all integrations come included for free. We also offer a trial for Opera Cloud itself, so you can try the product for 90 days. But certainly the fact that the integrations come included, unlimited, you can try whatever you want and pick and choose. We definitely see this as a huge motivator for our customers to transition to cloud and to build their own integrations and extensions and try new solutions that are available in the marketplace.
Jos, do you have anything to say about
Yeah, I have to ask Laura. So, because Oracle Cloud is obviously fairly new, it's not in many hotels yet. You have, I don't know, 40,000 hotels or something on Opera Legacy. Do you guys work on a way to enable some of that trial stuff with your legacy products? And I think the same question would also be for Ingo then, because I think that's where initially innovation starts when you have some volume, and volume can only be achieved if there's a number of hotels on those sites. So that would be my question to you with regards to free trials.
Free trials are normally coming from startup companies, right? It's a modern way of entering the market, and we will support this, right? In the case when a vendor wants to have a free trial, then we can negotiate between us and the vendor, and then it is free for the customer. That's no problem. The on-prem customers are also connected to the platform, all of our clients. So always only one integration, no matter if it's on-prem or cloud. So it would include all customers. Okay.
And Laura, what's Oracle's thought on that?
Yeah, so for legacy products, we also have the trial version for Opera, so 5, especially in the cloud, because that's also available hosted. Now the model on legacy doesn't change on how we know it, and that's because of the technology that's still needed, and the workforce that's still needed. Yeah, we're looking forward towards the future here, towards cloud.
Okay.
Excellent. So yeah, so I think that we have a perspective on the way things are and maybe the way things are evolving. The question is, how fast are they going to evolve, in the marketplace? Obviously, that
I love this, because it's like it is like if we do get to this point as an industry, I think it would really help us forward. I kind of almost feel like we're basically kind of introducing a lot of different pricing innovations, basically all in one call. So I'm really, really excited to hear it happen, because I think like the one thing that's like really, really unsaid is that for a long time, I think a lot of hoteliers didn't really appreciate how much work actually goes into making sure that a PMS is stable, delivering all the different things that it should. And, like, I don't think any of us basically here who are actually kind of either PMS vendors or, Jos, like, you know how difficult it is to build a PMS. And if you speak to people basically who are outside of the industry, they're astounded at the amount of technology it actually takes to build a PMS in all the different countries that we're actually kind of active in, you know? So I think to be able to do that, and plus basically kind of, offer the widest APIs, you know, with all the different webhooks that actually kind of enable a lot of that two-way communication. That's a huge amount of engineering work. And, you know, I don't know if anyone's tried to hire a few engineers. And I do laugh when people basically then say, you know, there's no costs involved in getting a startup, you know, or basically hiring your own dev team. Because I don't know if anyone's tried to hire some developers, but they're definitely not cheap at the moment. So I would basically say that, you know, there are always huge amount of costs available, but I think that, you know, the great thing is, and if I can hear it properly, I think us as an industry, we really will move forward if we try and basically make sure that the costs are limited to the customer. That probably means that the PMS should basically kind of start charging a good enough fee to start off with, so that we don't have to kind of make it up with other fees, basically hidden fees for integrations, for all these other things that you kind of have to do in the back end to kind of, you know, to make sure that the CFO overlords are happy. But I think it's basically about that kind of transparent approach of saying, this is our pricing, this is what it costs, this is the cost to the vendors, this is the cost to these people. And if we can get there as an industry of just basically saying, look, we're an open industry, we're going to tell you how much these things actually cost, yeah, and you can actually kind of like benchmark, then you actually only really kind of end up competing on product. And I think if we're able to get to that place as an industry, it's a really, really healthy place to be, because ultimately, you know, you don't want customers to be peed off with you because of the fact that they feel like they're being kind of held hostage, or that they feel that they're basically being scammed because there's some kind of upgrade of some kind of like back-end system. Like, those are things that I think we as technology companies have to kind of take on ourselves, and just make sure that we're always charging a fair price and the customers are getting a fair price in the process as well.
I think that's a very good point you make there, Richard. And I kind of want to add to that. Now that I think it's in line what you just said. Now that we've listened to all five of you, you all have the same strategy, or fairly much the same strategy as it comes to APIs and integration. They're all on cloud platforms. So this means some of Laura and Ingo have legacy PMSs, which are out there by thousands. And there is sometimes some resistance, I think, from these hotels and hoteliers to make the switch. Because it's apparently costly, but it's not really, I think, and I've said this on many other webinars, if you switch from a older PMS to a cloud-based PMS, which all five of you have, with a great integration strategy, then I think you enable innovation for your hotel, much rather than just trying to stick with what you have, the old legacy stuff. A simple example, I sold my application to a hotel in Holland. I'm not going to mention the name, not going to mention the PMS. The PMS is not on this call, but that PMS is so old, it only offers a one-way, and that doesn't work for us. So we basically had to cancel the order, and that hotel cannot innovate until such time and make the switch to a newer PMS. And I think that's really, I think it's really, I'm very pleased with what I heard today from you guys about your integration strategy and philosophies. But I think also hoteliers need to think, and maybe now might be difficult, but it's also a good time, because switching to a cloud is usually a monthly fee rather than $50,000 up front. So it's a good time to enable innovation. It requires vendors such as Oracle, Protel, apaleo, StayNTouch, and Mews to be innovative and open the APIs. But I think the next step would be for hoteliers to make that switch to those platforms, basically. But yeah, that would be my take.
The more
I think, yes, I'd say it takes a collaborative approach, right? So the PMS philosophy and integration strategy is one thing. it's the vendor community that we work with. We have close to 5,000, right? So it's about these partners coming on board and now putting their integrations through our new integration platform. That will actually be the point that will make the customers move to cloud, right? So we have now the technology for the cloud. So now we need the vendor community to participate and really move forward with us.
So
and I even would go a step further again, Laura. I'm absolutely in agreement. This should be the basis. However, it should go further in the way that actually even the implementation and onboarding should be something which is happening in a self-service mode and doesn't take a project of weeks or months to get a system replaced and integrated with apps you want to use as a hotelier. So essentially, this should be happening ad hoc in a live environment. So I mean, I would challenge anybody who wants to try it, go ahead and look at the cloud systems out there and try it out by yourself. And if you cannot activate your own hotel and configure it within a few moments, there's something wrong with what the guys say. Then it's not really the real life environment on how it should happen.
Fully agree.
I kind of agree. I'd love for this to be like completely true, but like I don't think that this is like a standard thing. Like it's not like you kind of go from one moment to another and go like, oh, I just like to kind of reconfigure and take 20 hours of my like working week to basically configure my PMS and let me do another one next week. Like I feel it's like one of these things that, you know, a PMS is basically, yeah, I agree in the fact that it should be as easy as possible for somebody to basically get trained up, for there to be a walkthrough, you know, this is how you do the settings and stuff like that, because, you know, you're going to have different general managers, you're going to have different people, basically. It's a high churn industry. You need to make sure that people are basically trained super quickly. You need to make sure that the whole interface actually looks like a human designed it and not basically somebody who's just like, oh, let's just put a color there because it basically made sense. Like those types of things are really, really important. But I think it's also, you know, the part of this is basically that, you know, as the technology grows, as we get more and more kind of complex, as the features get complex as well. And I think this is also part of the integration strategy. I think the great thing is that we as vendors basically, and as PMS companies also need to get better at recommending what's actually a good kind of tech stack. You know, to kind of say, you know, to do it either in a way that we can actually kind of know, or that we actually do it based on, you know, machine learning or something like that, where we're able to actually say, look, you're doing these kind of things, you're using this kind of vendor. And actually, we think that, you know, based on some other benchmarking data that we actually have from other companies, you might be better off actually using this integration here. You know, and to make sure that this is part of the conversation, that we as PMS are basically really kind of there with the customer, you know, actually advising them properly, so that, you know, they also, you know, because it's not just us that kind of are in the process of being disrupted or you know, making sure that we're actually kind of moving forward, but it's also some of the vendors, you know, some of the third parties. So if they could drop some of their fees, basically, if they could drop some of their kind of strategies as well, it's not about the PMSs, it's the whole industry as a whole. And to make sure that actually like they have the same kind of philosophy, and they're also not, you know, as worried about being disrupted in that way as well. I think if we can basically kind of all do this, and, you know, 5 of these fine companies, I think we've all kind of aligned ourselves to say that, you know, it's all about basically making sure that it's the easiest and simplest for the customer and cheapest.
Thank you, Richard. So we actually were scheduled to end at 11 o'clock. We've gone over by 5 minutes, so which has been great. I love it. Honestly, we probably have another few hours of conversation we could have right now. This has been really terrific, but unfortunately we do need to wrap it up. So what I want to do is I want to go around the table and ask everyone just for a couple sentences in conclusion, and then we'll wrap it up. Nicole, let's start with you.
In conclusion, yeah, so I think we all are in agreement that integrations to the customer should ideally be free, or just a token fee to everyone. to cover some basic costs. It should be super simple. And going back to what Uli said before, I think you need to be able to onboard your integrations within a couple of minutes and have it all up and running. It should be easy to connect vendors who want to offer free trials. That's a definite, and it's also something that we definitely support, an easy onboarding, and also making sure, of course, that the PMS data does not get compromised in that and stays intact. So that's an easy process to offer, and helps the hotels to try out different and new startups and integrations. I think all of these combined contribute to a good integration strategy, and is really where I think the industry should move into and move forward to, and it's good to see that that's already in progress.
Thank you. Uli, any last comments?
Sure. I think the right strategy for the industry is really to give everybody the freedom to put their own tech stack together. And what I mean with this is not only selecting among the current apps on the market which bring the innovation, but also develop anything on top of an existing platform that gives that scalability and freedom to do that. So we don't believe in the all-in-one approach anymore. We don't think anybody should actually develop and push their own components and modules, but it should be rather a platform where anybody can select which apps to use and what the best tech stack for somebody is.
Thank you. Ingo, do you want to have any last comments?
Yeah, I think it's amazing to see that all PMS vendors have platforms and open APIs in place, and I think there's some work to be done in the future. This I would like to add, because if you enable an integration, then there's some manual work to be done, right? So it's not like we have every single integration with a one-click to be set up. So the vendors should and platform providers should really work close together, that we can make this step easier. So it's really that we can reduce the cost for us and also for the customers, and the time it takes for enabling another integration.
Increased cooperation, I like it. Laura, do you have any last comments?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic to see all of us being quite aligned when it comes to the integration strategy and what an open system truly means, the easiness and the ability to offer everyone choice to compose their own solutions. I think collaboration was mentioned here. It's certainly very important. And it was also mentioned that, this should eventually become more about the capabilities that the PMS has to offer. The integration technology should really just enable all the solutions around it. And with our solution that's available to nearly 200 countries and in every possible business model and service model, we want partners and customers to grow with us and enable their expansion there and ability to be successful. But going back to collaboration, I really think that this is what's going to move the industry forward. And I think us coming together is really creating the magic that will make it happen.
Thank you. Thank you. And Richard?
No, I just, I'm probably just going to echo everything that every other smart person in this room has said. And I think that, I think it's a great time to be in this industry, and, it's a terrible time for this industry. But I think it's steps like this that I think make us more robust and more resilient. And I'm so gratified to see so many great startups basically doing the work basically outside of this. Like, I just wanted to kind of give a shout out to companies like Impala, for example, that are really, really working on, making sure that integration process between different companies are also easier. And, some of the newer kind of startups that we're working with, the very, very early stage ones that are thinking about, creating, easy API meshes and stuff like that. There's one that we're working with called Superface back in Czech Republic that I think is really, really exciting as well. I think, it's only going to get easier. And it's just a great time for us to be kind of doing this. But I think, again, it's the last comment that I would like to kind of say is, it's then basically back to the hotelier, just how innovative can you afford to be, and can you be? And I think that, we're moving ahead with our systems, and I'd really, really like to encourage every single hotelier to do the same, and, to use us as that kind of benchmark, and to see, if an industry as stodgy as the PMSs can be this innovative and can be moving forward at this kind of rapid pace, then you as a hotelier really have to kind of like take it on yourself of how many different innovative things are you going to be kind of taking on. And I think that the pandemic has really kind of forced that upon us as an industry. But I think the second is that, we shouldn't just stop there. We should really, really start thinking about, what next steps and what this industry could look like in 2030. So that's what I'm really, really excited about.
Thank you. Thanks, Richard. Jas, as always, I'm going to let you have the last words on this.
What am I going to have to say now? Everybody said it already, I guess. So I think, from a third-party vendor point of view, it's again, I think I'm very pleased with what I heard today, and I hope we can make this work very soon with 5 of you and go live with the 5 of you. I think from two hoteliers that are listening, or anybody else that's listening, I think we're all going to be in the search of revenue and new technology and new innovation. So I would urge anybody who's listening to try out new things. Look for things that focus on revenue. Look for things that focus on automation and cost reduction. Roomdex happens to be one of those solutions. So I would definitely recommend you look into what we can have to offer. But I think there is overall there's good things to come for this industry. And I saw some of the notes also. Somebody was saying it's kind of nice to see that 5 PMS vendors are thinking very similar, which I think is in general also a good thing for this industry. So that's what I would have to say.
No, I'm in agreement. Unfortunately, we had lots and lots of really great questions that we weren't able to get to because of time. I just want to remind everybody that this has been recorded today, and we're going to upload it onto the Roomdex website a little bit later this afternoon. You'll receive an email with the link as well. If you have any other questions, please reach out to us at info@roomdex.io, and we're certainly happy to route any questions to any of the panelists and do whatever we can to get those questions answered for you. Again, thank you very much, panelists. This has been actually a tremendous webinar, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thanks everyone. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thank you for organizing everything.
Thank you.